upload it into the chat.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
we can still swear if we want to, but we probably won't.
We'll only swear when we don't drop our weight because we don't make the effort.
Correct. Correct. All right, I'm going to put this into presenter mode. And can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, I'm just going to move my face over here. So, welcome to the
Yep.
8-week challenge. Here we are. 8 weeks is going to go really quickly. You kind of feel like it's going to go kind of slow, and it might feel like periods are like, oh, this is kind of dragging on. But I've done 10-week challenges, 12-week challenges, and they can tend to kind of drag on a little bit. And I like the idea of 8 weeks because you can always kind of see that finish line. And 4 weeks, if you stick to your numbers, 4 kilos, if you stick to your numbers, is still pretty significant. And during the last challenge, we had clients losing anywhere from 2 up to kind of 8 kilos. Now, I would expect that from maybe a guy more so because they have more muscle mass, but the majority of people that lost a lot of weight were basically just sticking to their numbers and got to like anywhere from 5 to 8 kilos. So I think 8 weeks is a nice time to kind of keep that finish line in front. And I think that's kind of motivating. So, oh, here we go. First issue. Here we go. All right. The most important factors. So I guess what I wanted to present in this little slide deck was the same information I give to my one-on-one clients when we're going through our first couple of consults. And generally that takes a couple of hours. Obviously this isn't going to take a couple of hours, but this is essentially the information that I present. So the first thing is the most important factors when it comes to weight loss, and really the only things that we need to worry about when this is our priority. Got a bit of an echo there now. Am I echoing?
It's me.
All right. Yeah, we might put it just on mute for a minute. Skip, and when
Yeah,
you
you
want
might
to
need
talk,
to
unmute yourself. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you might need to mute the call.
Yeah, that's all right. So the most important thing when it comes to weight loss is 100% a calorie deficit. I always say it doesn't matter how many sashimi bowls or poke bowls or asahi bowls we're eating. If we're not in a calorie deficit, so if we're not eating less than what our body really wants to eat, we can't lose weight. And I guess that probably is one of the things that really trips a lot of people off when they want to start a health or fat loss journey. And that is that they feel like, and I was guilty of this, that if I eat healthy foods, I will lose weight. And it's kind of what we get told, and it's in the media. And the reality is, if we actually don't know how those numbers stack up, if we're even eating healthy foods, we don't know for sure if we're in a calorie deficit. Okay, so the idea that we start to have a bit of an idea of the energy density of the food that we're eating really has to be our number one priority to make sure we're in a calorie deficit. We cannot lose weight without that fact. Number two priority is going to be protein. We will be talking more about protein in week 3. Most of you know that protein is a super important part of our weight loss journey because it makes us feel good. It has a high thermic effect, so our body burns a lot of calories when we're processing protein. And it also makes sure that we maintain our muscle through a fat loss phase, because as soon as we start eating in a deficit, we start to lose muscle, and we want to maintain that muscle as best we can. So protein is our number 2 priority. Number 3 priority absolutely has to be movement. I have set your calories on the amount of steps that you do daily and on the average, because without that movement, we're not going to see anywhere near as much fat loss, and it becomes much harder without it. So I'll often get clients that starting off at 2,000 or 3,000 steps a day. And when we're moving, those sorts of numbers, it means that your calorie deficit numbers are around about 1,000 calories, 1,100 calories, and that is very, very, very difficult to stick to. I've just started working with a client who's 5'2" and has been down at that 2,000 or 3,000 step count. Got so desperate that she's been on Ozempic and almost booking in a tummy tuck, surgery, because she couldn't figure out why she wasn't losing weight. And once we started to put the numbers together for her, and we realized that because of her size and her lack of movement, she couldn't eat very many calories without putting on weight. She's understanding that now, and guess what? 2 weeks in, the scales are starting to move. So that's been pretty cool. And she's about to cancel her appointment with the surgeon. Number 4 is, and we'll be talking about movement and steps actually next week when we start talking about our week 2 challenge, which is going to be 10,000 steps. Now, you don't need to do 10,000 steps every day, but a nice little marker in the middle is between 8 and 10,000, and not just for weight loss and weight maintenance, but for mental health and heart health as well. Number 4 is sleep and rest. Now, believe it or not, sleep isn't directly involved in whether or not you lose weight. You could get 3 hours sleep a night and still lose weight if you're in a calorie deficit. But we all know how we feel when we're getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep and we're not feeling good. And when we're not feeling good, we tend to reach for the carbs and we're moody, and it just ends up being a roller coaster of emotion. And if we look back at what's going on with our sleep and rest, we often find we can attribute a lot of what's going on and a lot of how we're feeling to a lack of sleep and a lack of rest. And of course, what's making things worse is the little iPhone habit that almost we all have, and not putting that down, when we're in bed, and the effects that that is having on everybody in our lives, not just us. So sleep and rest is the number 4 priority. So, as I said, the core principle of weight loss is a calorie deficit, and a nice little way to think about it is this occurs when you consume fewer calories than your body needs to maintain its current weight. It forces your body to use stored energy reserves, primarily fat, to meet its energy demands, leading to weight loss. Now, there are basically kind of like 2 strings that we can pull when it comes to being in a calorie deficit. One is we can reduce the food that we're eating. And number 2, we can increase the movement and the cardio. And hopefully, if we're doing a little bit of both, we get that nice energy balance of improving both factors in our life to help create that calorie deficit. We often find if we go through a phase where we're doing heaps and heaps of cardio and losing heaps and heaps of weight, we often find it's not sustainable. And then we go, what do we do now if I can't? Another example of a client, she was getting ready to do, not an Ironman, I think she was doing the half Ironman. I can't remember what that's called. Anyway, it's still a massive commitment and still lots of cardio. And she was competing, I think, in Noosa. She lost a ton of weight. She got really, really fit because she was training super heavy for this Ironman or a half Ironman. And then during the Ironman, she got injured. And she got injured to the point where, I can't remember if she quite finished or not, but she couldn't really walk after the Ironman. So she's gone from crazy cardio and losing heaps of weight to not being able to walk, not getting her steps in and her movement. And of course, that weight stacked on pretty quickly as soon as that Ironman was done, because she couldn't maintain the level of fitness that she was, that she had going prior to that event and her training. So it kind of just goes to show the strings that we can pull and what can happen if we can't move our body. So when we talk about the calorie deficit, that is the absolute principle of weight loss. We cannot get away from the principle. But there are lots of methods you can use to create a calorie deficit. And these are all pretty familiar to me because I pretty much have done every single one of them at some point. And I'm sure you possibly have as well. So a method that you could use to create a calorie deficit is obviously something like the keto diet, which I've done. Being a vegan, which I've done because I thought that's what I needed to do to be healthy and to lose weight. I've done Weight Watchers, I've done the Atkins diet, I've definitely done low carb, high fat, and I was really miserable because I wasn't eating any croissants. I did the Mich or donuts. I did the Miss Bridges diet. I've done the Sam Wood. There are also things like structured eating plans. That also, that is also a method. Something like the Mediterranean diet is another method. And believe it or not, that actually not believe it or not, but it actually does come up right at the top, I guess, of the preferred diet type for general health because of the healthy fats in that diet. And of course, my preferred way of dieting is where we take a flexible dieting approach where we're not cutting out any foods whatsoever, but we do start to get a handle on calories and the energy density of our food. Okay, but I'm biased. That is what I coach. Most evidence-based coaches will coach this approach, what we call the flexible dieting approach. And the reason why I like this approach is because, number one, the evidence says it's a solid approach for our clients. You're not cutting out any foods whatsoever, which makes it great because then we can tailor this to our clients and not say, okay, here's a food template for you. You've got to eat oats for breakfast, lettuce cups for lunch, and fish and rice and broccoli for dinner. No, what we do is we tweak our client's diet. You can improve your relationship with your food and hopefully yourself because you're not cutting out anything and you're learning to fit in that dairy milk chunky at the end of the day into your calories without feeling guilty about it. I've got this great story that I still remember to this day. I won't bore you with it now, but it was a real light bulb moment when we used to do, and the girls will remember this, when we used to do, as part of our 10-week challenge in the 5 and 10, we had a week called Cheat Week, where we could literally eat whatever we wanted for the whole week. It was one of the challenges that we had. And I remember going to the supermarket because for this one day, you could pretty much just go to town on anything. Remember that, Alyssa? We used to it was crazy, wasn't it? And we would eat 4,500, 5,000 calories. But it was a great
That's right. Donuts, everything.
Donuts, everything.
It was a bit crazy.
Yeah. It was a great lesson because the idea was that you could go to town and eat whatever you wanted, but you had to get back on track the next day. That was it. And of course, within a couple of days, regardless of how many calories we'd consumed, our weight would bobble back to where it started at the start of the week. And so it really cemented in our mind that, and Adam used to say this all the time, and I do say it, one hot day doesn't make a summer. But in our mind, we wreck our diet for the day and we've wrecked it for the week, and that continues on for the month. The lesson that I learned, though, in that was that here there was this complete stranger who at the time I didn't know, I was just following his online program, who had given me permission to go to the supermarket and choose Ben and Jerry's out of the freezer. And it was like, hang on a minute, why is this complete stranger giving me permission to eat this ice cream. Why aren't I giving myself permission to eat this ice cream? And I realized in that moment that I hadn't been treating myself very well in that aspect.
Mm.
I was
For
like,
sure.
you know what? A Ben and Jerry's tub is 1,100 calories. At least if I want to eat the entire tub, I can make an informed decision about eating those calories if I want to, and just kind of move on with my life. And from that day on, I absolutely have. I don't always get Ben and Jerry's. I'll maybe choose a lower calorie ice cream, but I can choose Ben and Jerry's if I want to. And so that immediately changed my relationship, not only with food, but also with myself. And so if you've never, some of you are familiar with flexible dieting, so that won't be, much of a light bulb moment, but for those that have never lost weight using a flexible dieting approach, that is my big wish for you, that your relationship with food changes from here on in. And I guess the last thing it does is it forces you to gain an understanding of the energy in our food, knowing that, a quarter of an avocado is between 60 and 75 calories. It's healthy, yes, but it's still got calories. An acai bowl with peanut butter, absolutely healthy, but it's got a lot of calories. Banana bread, maybe not as healthy as we think it is, so many calories and a lot more than, say, 2 pieces of raisin toast. And starting to understand that is going to make a huge difference to your diet, because you can make an informed decision and fit it in if you want, or not fit it in if you don't want to. So just quickly, and I won't go through this too much because you've all been given your deficit calories for the 8 weeks. It's nothing too crazy. We're taking a 500 calorie approach to try and lose half a kilo a week, okay, for the 8 weeks. So I like to remind my clients that 1 kilo of fat is 7,700 calories. So in order to lose 1 kilo, we have to be in a 7,700 calorie deficit. Now, an easy way to think about this is super easy, because I always say that weight loss isn't magic, and we shouldn't need to guess. We can pretty much predict how much weight we're going to lose over time. But here's a nice way to think about it, and hopefully this might be something you like to use after after you've completed the challenge. If you're in a 300 calorie deficit per day for 7 days, you will pretty much lose 300 grams at the end of the week. Just an easy way to remember. If you're in a 400 calorie deficit per day, you'll roughly lose 400 grams for the week. We're in a 500 calorie deficit for the program. If we stick to our numbers, that's a 500 gram weight loss. So the bigger the daily deficit, the more weight loss we lose at the end of the week. Now, let's say, for example, you hit your deficit on Monday of 500 calories, and then on Tuesday you go over your deficit by 500 calories, or you're back to square one. And that's sometimes how we can get a little bit, I guess, kind of disappointed in the results when we're not always tracking that day that we go over, because we're so annoyed at ourselves that we just go, oh, I'll just start again Wednesday. But we're kind of forgetting that even though we're not tracking because we've cracked it, those calories still count. Okay, so I heard a great quote not long ago that said something like, don't be upset about the results you didn't get because of the work that you didn't do. And it's kind of a nice reminder, and again, it was one of those light bulb moments for me, is that I stopped getting annoyed at myself if I wasn't doing the work. Like, I can't blame the scales for not going down if I'm not in a deficit. That's on me, okay? Again, nothing to be upset about. We just kind of go back to the numbers. So the more objective you can be through this through this project journey, the better. All right, try and be as objective as you can and try and leave the emotion at the door. I know that's easier said than done, but it will make your journey so much more enjoyable. We're almost getting to the end of this mini presentation, but I just wanted to show you a graph. I don't know if you can see that if you're on the walk or something, but you'll be able to grab it later. Basically, what I'm demonstrating here is that your weight loss, particularly if you've never tracked before, and now that we're tracking every day, and some people kind of freak out about that, but I always say, in order to get better at something, we have to measure it. If we want to see improvement, we have to measure it. And this here graph is a graph of one of the months that one of our challengers that lost quite a bit of weight had. And the arrows demonstrate, so this was only 4 weeks, the arrows demonstrate all of the little weight increases that she had over that month. So can you imagine if she had have cracked it every time the scales went up, she would have quit, right? So you can see here that on the 3rd of November, she had her first lowest weight, and then the next day it actually spiked up. And then she had another low, and then it spiked up again, and then it spiked up 2 days in a row. And then it went down 1, 2, 3 days in a row before it went up again. So across the month, she had, I mean, I just got some of them there, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times where her weight went up than it did the day before. But as you can see over time, that was a 3.5 kilo weight loss in a month. So I've got here, your fat loss will not be linear, so get ready for the ride because that's really what it is. It will fluctuate, but don't freak out because we're going to take a weekly average approach and watch the trend line down. Okay, so that's really, really important if you've never, I know a lot of you have tracked and that really won't matter, but for those of you that haven't tracked, this is a big part of that mental space that you need to be in. And what's really cool about weighing yourself every day, especially for us women, is that you get to know your body. And instead of giving it a hard time, when the scales go up, I always say that's your body looking after yourself. All right, that's really, really important. And then just a little meme to finish. When you're super motivated starting your diet this morning, but by the time you get to lunch, you regret your whole life. And this cat eating lettuce leaves, which hopefully you will not be doing, eating lettuce leaves. So that was it. I hope you enjoyed that. And
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
the only other thing I kind of wanted to mention just quickly that I will probably put in iteration 2 of that presentation is a little bit about reading labels. If you've never read labels like before, walking into the supermarket, I know the first few times that my clients are looking at labels, they're like, what the hell am I looking at? And we're always looking at the energy first, which is the calories. And the most confusing part of that is in Australia, we use kilojoules and calories. So Michelle, that might be confusing for you. And an easy way just to convert that off the top of your head to get to calories, we want to use calories because they're the smaller number and they're easier to work with. We just divide it by 4. So if you're in the supermarket, you see the serving size and it says 1,000. If you divide it by 4, 250 calories is the serving size, and that's close enough. The actual number is, if you want to be specific, 4.4 is what we divide it by. But knowing, you know, unless you're a math whiz, dividing it by 4 is close enough. Yeah, I think that's where I'll leave it. I think I'll stop talking now. And just to finish with, I guess, is that right throughout this process, the 8 weeks, is you don't need to be perfect at all. In fact, I don't want I don't want to see anybody hitting 8 times 7 ticks for their calorie budget for the 8 weeks. I know with some of you, I don't need to worry about that. But I absolutely don't want you to be perfect, and you don't need to be perfect to make friggin' great progress. You just need to not give up on yourself. That's all you need to do. All right?
I have a question, Michelle.
Yes, Danny?
In your video, which I haven't watched yet, do you go into how to use the Kahuna's app for the nutrition? Because I was using my Fitness Pal previously, but I thought this challenge I'll try use the Kahuna's app. Do you go into that in your video, or should I just look at the Kahuna's help guide if I have any questions?
I actually did upload a video yesterday.
Okay. I'll have a look at that.
That's got, the nutrition in there. It's very similar. The only thing that it doesn't do as well is create a recipe. It's a little bit different. You can still do it. What you need to do is you kind of need to figure out the calorie. Let's say I'm making spaghetti bolognese. I have to kind of figure out the calories in the spaghetti bolognese and then put it in as a recipe with the calories, protein, fats. It doesn't let you add each ingredient to create that recipe.
Okay.
That's the only thing. But you can copy and paste into different days. It'll save your regular meals as well. I like the cleaner interface, but if you've got lots of recipes saved on MyFitnessPal, you can still use that. But I would try it just for fun and see what you think.
Yeah, thanks for that. I haven't had a look at the latest videos and what you've uploaded yet, so I'll try and get to that tonight, if not tomorrow morning. Yeah,
cool. I try to make them short, but man, I talk a lot. I don't mean to. It just comes out. No one else? All good?
Check-in is again on Sunday, is that right? When we do our check-in, or no, Saturday?
Yeah, check-in's going to be Saturday this time. Yeah, so 2 reasons. One, I think it's going to be nice to get a fresh start on a Monday once you've received your feedback from me on a Sunday.
Yeah, it's true.
And 2, I was having some pretty massive Mondays because I had my one-on-one check-ins on a Monday, and then I was doing all of the all of the challenge check-ins in the afternoon, and then wanting to get the video out for the winner. And it was just, I was like just stuffed at the end of the day. So I was like, yeah, I kind of need to split this up. So we're splitting up. Yeah. So, but I'll remind everybody that like on Friday, check-ins on Saturday. Annoy everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
You're very welcome. Michelle, have you got anything you want to ask?
Thank you.
Right there?
Yeah, all good.
All good.
The only thing that I noticed with using the app is that when I go to put in different foods, it's interesting because some things are coming up with the exact same title as the food that I've got, and the nutrition that they've put in is different from what's on the actual nutrition panel. So I've had a couple of things that I've gone to put in, and I'm like, it's different from what's on the panel of the food. So yeah, that's been interesting.
Yeah, on the food that you've physically got that you're scanning?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so what's already in the app is different.
Yeah. So that's a US-based app, and most of the things in there are kind of from the US. I would generally follow the pack, and you can make that adjustment in Kahuna's just to make sure that the calories match. Every now and then you will see, like, I had a client come to me the other day, and she bought a bag of nuts from like one of those, like a Middle Eastern grocery store. Like it had been packaged somewhere else in another country, and she had put into the Kahuna's app like 45 calories for like 50 cashew nuts or something like that. And I was like, yeah, that's not right. Like, it was really obvious that it wasn't right. And it was great that we grabbed it within the first few days, because she was having like 200 or 300 calories worth of nuts that she didn't realize she was having. I was like, oops. So every now and then, and look, to begin with, Mich, you won't have any idea. You'll be going, oh, that looks right. But definitely with my clients that
Yeah.
are brand new, I'll have a bit more of a look at their calorie log to make sure that what they're logging is pretty good. I do have a bit of
Cool. So you can actually see our calorie log then?
Yep. I'm watching. Yeah, I can. Yep. If it's
I've been good. I've put in for next day.
if it's in Kahuna's, yes, and if it's in my Fitness Pal,
Yeah.
I'm friends with most of my clients. Like you can be friends on my Fitness Pal, and then you can show each other's food diary. So yeah.
Oh, that's right. I'll just stick to the one. But it was good because I did download the MyFitnessPal as well, and I did go in and check some things on there to see, because I was like, well, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
And just to check to see whether the numbers were similar, and then I just went with what looks similar.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I do have a sheet in there that's got like the calories for protein and stuff on 100 gram. Like it'll say chicken breast cooked 100 grams. This is what it should be. Chicken breast raw 100 grams. This is what it should be. There's a spreadsheet in there somewhere. But if you're not sure, you can always
I'll
ask.
go and have a look. Yeah.
Who eats raw chicken breast?
Well, no one eats raw chicken breast, but when you're logging food, if you're weighing it raw, then you want to log raw chicken breast.
Oh, I didn't
Cook
realize
it.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, if you cook it and then weigh it, you want to log cooked chicken breast.
Yeah.
Because especially with meat, because obviously when it cooks, it's dehydrated and so it loses its water, so it weighs different, and so the macros are different.
Thanks for that.
That's all right. Yeah, it does make a bit of a difference. Ideally you weigh it raw, but of course if you've got a family and you're cooking for like 6 people, you're not going to divvy up yours raw, and then so that's obviously when you just measure it cooked, but you would log it as cooked. And I think it's a little bit easier probably to weigh like cooked pasta or cooked rice, because that's kind of going to be consistent. And of course, the difference between cooked rice and weighed and raw rice, the macros are very different because the weight's so different because it takes on all that water. So just so long as you log whatever you're eating, if it's cooked or if it's raw. And of course, the big one that I hadn't really talked about, but again, I'll add this to a future chat, is to a future thing, is to eat high volume foods that are low in calorie. Things like pumpkin, things like watermelon, so you get berries, so you get lots of volume for very little calories to make sure that you're keeping full. Massive salads with protein. Low carb potatoes, not because they're low carb, but because they happen to be lower calorie as well, those charisma potatoes. And you can have like 250 grams for only 125 calories. So can you imagine like 250 grams of potatoes sitting in your stomach? You're going to stay nice and full. And that's really important when we're in a deficit. I actually did a list low calorie, high volume foods. So if you want it, let me know. All right.
Okay.
It's nearly my bedtime. Those of you that know me know that, I'm normally falling asleep at this time.
Yeah. Is it because you've got 5:30 tomorrow morning or 6 o'clock class?
Exactly. I've got
I'll be at that time.
PTs tomorrow at 6:30.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for coming. Can I take a selfie of us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Because Mum will be so rapt. There we go. 1, 2, smile. Oh yeah, it worked. Great. Thanks everyone. Thanks for
Thank you.
thanks for popping in on your Sunday night. Don't forget, I'm always available. If you need to ask me anything, you don't want to put it in the chat, please just send me a message. Via Kahunas would be better because then it's all in the one chat. But of course, we've got WhatsApp as well. So, all righty.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Michelle. Have a good night.
Yeah, you
Bye.
too, and I'll speak
Thanks,
to you soon.
Michelle.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.